it's Dawn. Welcome back. I am working on this book that I've been working on for a while. It's spiral bound book that I bought years ago from Five and Below. I think they've got a gray cover now instead of a blue. But I've just been, kind of just working with some patterns with stencils and various things, cleaning up palettes, getting rid of colors. And I need to clean this palette out here to my left, and I pulled this stencil out of my stash. It's by Deco Art Americana. It's a daisy stencil, as you can see, and it's really tiny, so I pulled out my size 1 round, and we're going to see if I hate this really delicate pattern, because it has a potential of being a little bit of a hot mess. So let's just wet down this palette a little bit. I'm just going to spray it with my mister here, and there's a little bit of Mayan blue right here in the middle. We're just going to kind of avoid that bad boy. I'm going to go all around it. These are a bunch of reds and yellows and golds that I was doing for another thing, and I'm now ready to get some of these pigments out, but mostly I'm just going to use the pigments that have kind of coagulated here in the middle and kind of become muddled and muddy, and just have a little fun and do a little meditative, pull you down a little bit closer, a little bit of meditative painting with stencils. I find it to be very relaxing and therapeutic. And you can be as controlled or as, I don't know, what's the word? Loosey-goosey as you like with this. I think because of the size, I'm going to go for a bit more controlled this time. But I really would like it a bit wetter, because what I want it to do is, if I don't know if you can see from the picture, but these two petals right here where I'm painting now are blended, or connected. Let me show you on the stencil. Right there. See how there's not a line that separates those petals on any of it? So as you paint it, it has that that break. So I kind of want to take advantage of that break. And so I'm kind of looking for a more extra wet situation rather than not a dry brush, but you know what I mean. Let me wet this a bit more, honestly, because I think I'm really going to wish for the extra gooberishness of the water. Yeah, that's an official word for watercolor. Gooberishness. I know. Weird names come out of my head. So I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're enjoying your crafting moments. And I don't know about you, but when I'm not in the mood to actually get in my studio, I like watching others get in their studio and do things. It inspires me. It gives me ideas. That's what inspire means. I know. Duh. And I'm not going for real life realism in this painting. That's not even a painting. I'm not going for realism in this little exercise. I'm just having fun, seeing what combinations come out of the mist, the swirl. And let me charge that with a little pink, red, whatever is over here in this swirl of paint palette. And it's going to take me weeks to clean this out. Even if I used it every day, I don't think I'd use it right away, but I'm enjoying these color combinations, the golds and the yellows and the reds and the pink. There's not a lot of pink in there, actually. It's more magenta. There might be a little magenta, but I have a sheet somewhere about what's all in here, but it don't matter. I don't need to reference it later. I'm just having a little daisy fun. Maybe a little orange. The book is it was like a $3 book, I think, at Five and Below. So you know the paper is not great quality, but that's not what I'm here about. The paints are largely Daniel Smith. in the variety of obviously colors. That's kind of a no-brainer. And there's everything in here from an ochre all the way up to a pyrrole orange, and a yellow ochre rather, and a pyrrole orange. I think only yellow is in an ochre now that I say that. And except for that little Mayan blue business in the middle, which I put it there, yes, but it was a mistake, clearly. Who puts blue in the middle of orange? Because you're going to get brown. I don't know what I was thinking. And I may hate this number 1. Oh, forgot a petal there. Well, we're just going to fake it out. I'm not going to go back and redraw it. We're just going to pretend like it was there all along. Drawn, I mean. And we're not going for realistic colors, obviously. We're just having a play, having a meditative moment, a little practice. I'm not great with small stuff. I'm much better with larger things. I much prefer them, honestly, but I think sometimes it's good to stretch yourself and make yourself do stuff that you're not good at. And see if that muscle memory can improve with practice. That's not if, you know it will. It's just not my favorite. I also don't like running marathons. But that's another story. I'm a very accomplished couch potato. If they had an Olympic sport for couch potato, I would do very well. Oh, this is going to make my hand get all crampy, I'm afraid. Well, we'll break it up into little sessions. You won't notice a difference, but it'll give my hand a break. And I do like doing it where you have some really highly pigmented pieces followed by these are very watery, which will likely be very paler pieces. And of course, red and yellow look so good together when they're only partially blended, and you get that whole variation of color. You get all the hues, all those analogous, yeah, big word, colors. I love it. I think this is Potter's Pink right here that I'm playing with right there, but it don't matter. I do like Potter's Pink though. It's like a clay, earthy pink. So this plate, I'm noticing, I got this at Walmart, $2. It's got a puddle. I mean, all the water's kind of running. It's got a indentation here in the middle, and the outer part is getting dry, so I'm going to have to deal with that, but that's not the end of the world. almost dark. There's a reason why I don't paint miniatures. I am built like a linebacker. My hands are very large. And painting this small is not terribly comfortable. I am nearly 6 feet and I am the shortest in my family, between my children and my siblings. Everybody's taller than me. Of course, I think that's the plight of the oldest in the family, isn't it? I think the oldest is always the shortest. But my brothers are both taller than me. My sister's taller than me. My daughter is taller than me. And I'm nearly 6 feet. So go figure that. But that means, but I'm not 6 feet ballerina. I'm 6 feet footballer. So these hands are not happy gripping this teeny tiny paintbrush. Am I complaining? Yes. Did I worry when I drew this that I was like, this is going to be really small? Yes, I did. Did I still do it anyway? Oh, that's also yes. So the only person to blame here is me, myself, and Irene. But I thought, well, it's a little page. It's not the big 9 by 12. It's only 5 by 7. How crampy can your hand get? Well, we're about to find out. Yeah, let's make it sloppier as we go, too. I don't know. I like it, though. I like it enough to see it through. I think. I kid. Y'all, I am a Gen X, an early Gen Xer. And that translates to fluent sarcasm. I'm not speaking in sarcasm, I'm ill. Check my temperature. I know y'all know what I'm talking about. You other fellow Gen Xers, you know what I mean. We are the generation of severe sarcasm, and I'm not sure that's a healthy thing. I think it's probably a coping mechanism, but I also use sarcasm as humor. And it's working more these days. Back in the day, I think it was a way of deflecting and not having to deal with your emotions in the moment. But now it's just more humor and satire than anything. In my line of work, I have to take dates of birth down for clients, and I find myself going, well, you're not old enough to... Oh, yeah, you are. Because, you know, you get to where you're writing a year and you're thinking, you have how many children in there? How old? And you were born when? And then you start doing the math and you go, oh, right. Because everything feels like 5 minutes ago. And the pandemic has only amplified that. And that's been almost 6 years. 6? No, 5. I could do math. I need more coffee. But anyway. Oh yeah, these are turning out really pretty. I'm really enjoying the 1970s Harvest Gold kitchen Tupperware. How many aunties and parents had kitchens that looked just like this color palette? Yep, we all did. If you were born back in the day. I have an auntie who had this house built in, I don't know, 1975, something like that. and had shag carpet in the kitchen, if you can imagine it. Gold shag carpet. And then she had the bright, bright pyrrole orange countertops. And she had those countertops into the 90s. She did not change them. And I would ask her, Auntie, you know, these colors are just, they're so old. I mean, it's just not attractive. Gold shag carpet with bright orange countertops, and, you know, the appliances that were similarly colored in those same colors. And her answer was, it's not broken. Why would I replace it? And I'm like, well, yeah, you got a point, but ooh. I'm not sure I'd have had the same courage not to change out those orange countertops and that gold carpet. Eventually she had to replace the gold carpet. It just, kitchens are not a place for carpet. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. Bathrooms too. Oh, I had a relative who had shag carpet in their bathroom. Like, who thought that was a good idea? I don't know. For the record, it's not a good idea. It gets wet. Duh. It gets food spills. Duh. In the kitchen. In the bathroom, it's just begging for a flood. And then it gets musty and dusty and yuck. Anyway, I'm liking this pattern despite my hand cramping. 17 minutes in, and I'm not sure how many rows I can do without giving my hand a little breaky poo, but we're just going to keep going until we don't want to. Then we'll take a little break and finish it up, I reckon. I have thought about switching, like doing a rainbow and going to the blues and green, towards blues and greens at the bottom. And I may do that. I may start this off with this color, or I might just finish it. My goal in this book is to then scan some of these, all of these, I say some, is to then scan these patterns and then print them out for excuse me, collage or junk journaling, or, you know, whatever. It's to have my own paper, and I can print it on whatever I want. I can print it on heavy cardstock. I can print it on really thin, you know, copy paper, 20-pound copy paper. Some of my favoriteest paper designers over, you know, have come and gone. My Mind's Eye, Basic Gray, Tim Holtz, K and Company, and, you know, with big box stores, kind of, well, Joann's is shuttering, and you know, you're limited on what you, so I'm like, well, heck, I'll just start making my own paper. And if I make patterns in colorways, now this case, I'm not sure this is a colorway I would have made, but I might. But then what I might do after I scan it is then get into Procreate and then add some, it just would be a place to start. Then I could add some stamping to it, or some mark making over top, or, you know, whatever. And then I can make the paper that I want, or that I wish was still being made. And I still have a stash of paper, don't get me wrong, but I'm reticent to use it because, well, I mean, Stamperia is still out there making really great paper, and 49 and Market is still making, you know, make some really great paper, and All Create, I think they make paper. I like them in their stamp designs. I'm not, they're newer to me, so I'm not as familiar with their stuff. But, I mean, I pulled out a piece of paper the other day that was probably 10 years old from a paper pad, or maybe 15 years old. And I just was noticing how much nicer the paper quality was and the paper pads then compared to today. And I don't know, it's just, I want to just have options, I guess. That's all I'm trying to say. And so if I scan these and then I pull them up in Procreate and start fussing with them in that, and then I can have my own paper for my own purposes, and I don't have to worry about, and that, and plus, you know, jelly paper, jelly prints and stuff that I make with my jelly plate, and then ink. I love taking like distress inks and spray inks and making my own paper, my own colors, I should say. I'm not physically making the paper. I'm just taking watercolor paper and adding medium to it, whether it be acrylic on the jelly plate or Tim Holtz's distress ink. Makes, you know, you can take a plain piece of white paper, cardstock, copy paper, whatever, and suddenly with some ink and some masks and some stencils and some mark making and stamping, boy, you've suddenly got a beautiful piece of paper that then you scan it and use it over and over again. At least that's my plan. So I'm just making prints, making patterns, I should say, as my layer 1. And then I'll have them for later when I'm ready for layer 2 and layer 3. Layer 2 being watermarks or splashes or marks on top or stamping. Just kind of traveling all around this palette, dipping it into the water and then picking up whatever. I'm trying to move around so it's not all homogenized. And that's my husband in the kitchen acting like he's tearing through a toolbox when it's really just a silverware drawer. But you'd think it was a toolbox outside in his garage. The other thing that might be helpful to do with this is to turn it and get a different vantage point. Especially if your hand starts getting tired. But it also might help you with some muscle memory and some muscle techniques. Yeah. Ooh, that was Quinn Orange, I think. I got a big old swipe of it. And the other thing too, and I should have mentioned this before, you don't have to leave these petals separated. You could connect them to the center, to this, yeah. In fact, I may at the bottom do that very thing. I may do some rows like this, and then at the bottom make those petals come together. Pick up a little ochre here and it's a beautiful day here in Central Florida, and I've got my windows open, and it's spring, and it's a weekend, and kids are riding by on their bikes, and mom's got the babies in the strollers walking around, and people walking their dogs, and Feels like a wonderful moment frozen in time. Laughter of children and the sun's starting to get low in the horizon. It's really pretty. Makes you want to slow down and do some painting, which is why I'm here doing this. I wonder what, oh, that looks like a quite orange too. It's really dark. I like it when the orange is up here next to this like muted crimson or something. It's a nice contrast. Now let's go pick up a really bright magenta color. Let's go pick up this rose. It looks like opera rose. I'm not sure what color this is. Oh man. I need to skip around the palette a bit more because that is out there, isn't it? It's good to get a little variety. Let's go over here and grab a little yellow. It's coming along nicely. Don't know what this yellow is because it's so clouded by the other colors that have been kind of brushed over it, so we're just gonna grab it and see. Doesn't matter anyway. If I wanted the pure pigment, I'd pull it out of the tube, right? Right. That's the opera mixed in with that yellow. That makes a really pretty color. Getting a little looser with my petals, and it's keeping my hand, and I'm also not gripping my brush so tight. It's really helping my hand not be quite so crampy as it was a minute ago. That's the other thing about art, man. It's not working. Try something else. Don't give up. Keep going, but just try it a different way. It's easy to talk ourselves out of something because, like, oh, that feels awkward or it doesn't feel good. All right, well, keep pushing yourself to try it that way, but then at some point, give yourself permission to go, no, that just doesn't work for me. I need to change my grip or my tactic or my angle or whatever and come at it a different way. Because if you quit because you hate it, or you won't do it again because it's too uncomfortable, then that defeats the purpose, doesn't it? Yep. It does. As my nephew would say. It does. And as he says, that's how it's spelled. D-O-E-S. Do's. Okay. You got it, fella. Do's it is. It's okay. He's only 6. He's got time to figure that out. Getting a little dry because my palette is sloped into the center. Didn't know that when I bought it. Then again, I like using things for things other than what they're initially intended. It's fun to... Well, first of all, palettes can be very expensive. If you're just getting started, go to the dollar store. Get a couple plates. Get 4 or 5 plates at $1.25 each. You're not spending much at all. But probably get 3 plates. Get a plates for cools, plates for warms, and then a mixing plate. And if you want to get real fancy, get another one for neutrals, so get 4. You spent $5, and now you've got the basics. Cools, warms, neutrals, and then a mixing. Or if you're bougie like me, have about 18 or 20 of them. I'm kidding, I don't have that many. I think I have 6 or 8 dollar store plates, and then I've got any number of other plates. But I was trying this one at Walmart. It was, I think, $2 or $3, but I like the high rim on it because my dollar store plates, they look like this. They look like this. And they stack on each other, which is nice until it isn't nice like that. Because the way they stack, and if your pigment's not completely dry, this is something else, ignore it. See, you just end up with... So I thought, well, I'll get this guy, because then when you stack them, it's got a rim on it, as you can see. And I thought, well, that'll be a better solution. And it is, except all the water goes to the middle. It's okay. It might be just, and that might be exactly what you want, is the water to go to the middle and not stay where the pigment is. But your mileage may vary, so do you. But you do end up with this really great little, whatever this is, this little soup of color. And you really can just pull from, you know, right there. That's a really pretty color. Grab some water here and just, wonder what this will look like. We'll find out. Because you'll notice I'm not rinsing my brush in between. I'm just grabbing some more, because all these colors go with each other. There's no need to. Zero need to rinse your brush out. Besides, you waste pigment that way. I know. I'm talking about an infinitesimal amount of pigment, but whatever. My mama taught me not to waste anything. My grandmother was a teenager during the Depression. She was born in 1909. So she was fully aware of the effects of the Depression. Well, she was a teenager and beyond, I should say. She was a flapper. Not really. Her mother wouldn't let her, my great-grandmother. But that's not the point. She grew up in the flapper era. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, that woman could find 62 ways to reuse aluminum foil. And she would my grandmother, and she would reuse it until it would just be disintegrating, falling apart. And even then she would say, no, don't throw that out. We could still do X, Y, and Z with it. And I don't remember now for the life of me what she would do with that. Because the foil would break down into these little shards, I guess is the only word I can think of. Like, what are you going to do with that? And I'm sure she found some use for it, because you may do. Which, again, is my mantra for 2025 with my own art supplies. We're going to make do. We're going to consume less. We're going to be happy with what we have. Ooh, that was a really nice shape. I enjoyed making that last petal. And I didn't even know I was doing it because I was just kind of talking. Well, not kind of talking. I am talking, but it's that muscle memory thing, right? Oh, that was fun. Oh, I want to do that again. Accidentally on purpose. What's that line from Happy Feet, Robin Williams? Accidentally cool. That was an accidentally cool petal. Of course, now I'm focused on it and I can't. But it bulbed out just beautifully. All right, keep going. Okay, I will. In addition to my sarcasm, I love movies and quoting obscure lines from movies. So when I pop out with accidentally cool, I know what I mean. And some of you will. Inconceivable. I mean, there's the obvious ones like that, but I'm a movie buff. I got fancy at the end and I accidentally uncool. Let's go heavy on the Quin Orange here in the middle. It's actually the real name of this is quinacridone nickel azo gold, which is no longer made. Whoa. So sad. But I still have a couple tubes of it because as soon as I heard it had been discontinued, I may or may not have hoarded a few tubes. 4. Okay, don't judge me. Because I'm not going to stop using it. And then by the time I go through that amount, they'll have re-released it or they'll figure out something else and I'll be okay. And I can stop sucking my thumb over that color. It's discontinued. All right, in the beginning, I was hating this pattern because of how it was making my hand feel, but I'm leaning into it now. It's actually becoming enjoyable. Okay, maybe that's a stretch, but it's not bad. And the end result is worth the effort. That's what I think I'm trying to say. I will not lie to you. In the first 3 or 4 minutes, I thought, well, this video is never going to see the light of day because I'm not going to finish it. But now I feel the opposite. It will see the light of day because I will finish it. Ha! I want to go kapow with the center right here with the red. Okay, where's my kapow? I would appreciate a bit more participation here. There's my kapow. Thank you. Yep. That was an obscure movie quote. But it's only one word, so it's hard. It was Mary Poppins. Alright, let's grab a cooler pink over here. Not real sure what this is, but it don't matter. Might be a pot, not a powder, might be a madder color, madder family. I'm a big fan of madder. I found out recently, much to my surprise, that's a plant. I mean, okay, most all pigments come from plants or minerals, right? But I never heard of a plant called madder. M-A-D-D-E-R. Who knew? I've heard of the Mad Hatter. But there's a plant called madder. Yeah. How do we like this so far? I'm liking it. Wet the palette around the edge again. It'll all run back to the middle, but it's just super dry at this point. Alright. Let's carry on. I think I'm just gonna, I know I said a minute ago I was gonna maybe do some blue at the bottom, but I think I'm just gonna keep it all this colorway, this analogous colors, the yellow, the pinks, and the reds. Well, pinks and reds, orange, whatever. This guy, right here. I find that when I'm close down on it, it's when my hand cramps, and when I go back here, which is not the normal spot for me to hold a brush, but it seems to be for watercolor, I should say. But it seems to be way more comfortable in doing this really tiny detail, and that might be just a new thing for me. I don't know. A new discovery today about doing small detail work is don't choke the brush. I've heard other teachers say that, other artists say that, but I'm not sure I've ever really tried it. Been too afraid of, you know, not having good control of the brush, but I'm liking what it's there so far, and that's, you know, if you don't know what the pattern is exactly, because you're kind of covered it, not kinda, you have covered it up with pencil, with the, oh, why is it sometimes when words come out of your mouth, they crash together and you don't make any sense? What I meant to say was, if the pigments are dark enough, you can't see the pencil lines. I used to erase a lot of my pencil lines, and then I found that that's not so great for me. Older eyes and all. So I kind of keep more of them than I don't. And I figured the pencil lines show. Well, it's just part of it. Ooh, that's bright red. Looks good though, doesn't it? Alright, let's grab some yellow or burnt orange. And besides, if we wanted perfectly shaped petals, we'd do it in Procreate or Adobe or, you know, any of those other digital programs. The appeal to some of this is the handmade aspect, I believe. Says the OCD perfectionist. I'm learning to embrace it though. At least I'm trying to. Okay. That looks pretty good. I'm loving some of these colors, some of these granulations and variances, and they're dancing in the water. Really pretty. And I'm really loving how it doesn't take much pigment at all. Of course, we're dealing with really bright pigments here to make a really pretty petal in these flowers. Ooh, circly, circly. I used to get discouraged when I would sit down and play with watercolors and want to just kind of do some of this stuff because my shapes were always so, I don't know, just the OCD part, they were not. So I stopped kind of doing it for a while, and then I discovered that by taking a stencil and tracing some patterns, and it doesn't matter where the stencil is. I mean, you can take a paper punch and make your own stencil with some cardstock, or pull out a really small stencil and just repeat the pattern over and over again. I think on this one I ended up having to repeat it like it's like 1.5 times. But I found that I had a whole lot more enjoyment in this little exercise of color mixing and practicing pattern, I don't know, whatever you want to call this, when I used a stencil as a guideline. Kind of like having graph paper when you draw, you know, something, and you've got graph paper behind it. That I use. I'm one of those people that I like dot journals, like the, you know, when you go and you buy a spiral notebook at, you know, back to school. I write a lot of notes at work, and I have to write a lot of stuff down, and I've always used lined paper, you know, college ruled lined paper. But I found a few years back that they make the same notebooks with dots instead of lines, and they make them with a light gray dot. I mean, we're talking Walmart, Walgreens. You can get them just about anywhere. And I started using those because if I used plain paper, my lines I'd slant up, slant down, whatever. My handwriting would just go wonky with it. And with the dots, it just kind of gave me oh, here you go. Go this way, go that way, straighten up. And I really like the dots, and yet they're in the background, so they don't interfere with what I'm writing, so I don't get not upset, but I don't get irritated because I can't read something because it's that line crossing through it, making it a 7 or a 4, or is that a 3 or an 8? I don't have to fool with that anymore because of the dots. So my whole point of that little diatribe is that this is kind of like when you draw a stencil, it's kind of like using that dot paper or graph paper. It just kind of keeps you on track. And I'm happier with the outcome as a result. And then I get to play with patterns and shapes that I might not otherwise create on my own. And eventually, you get enough muscle memory, you can start doing these on your own. But for the beginner, or somebody who just doesn't, not trust, but have confidence in their eye-hand coordination and keeping things in proportion, this is a great training wheels exercise. I don't know that I've thought of it like that before, but it sounds good to me. I might start trying to use some higher concentrations on some of these petals. I've been using a lot of watered down versions, but now I'm feeling the need to get some more saturated hues. And just see how that looks. Like this one, for instance. Ooh, this looks like a Gwen Rose or something. One of the reasons why this works is you're using the colors that are side by side on the color wheel, but you're using them in a repeating pattern, even though none of these petals are going to be potentially identical to another one. They're close enough. And so it repeats, and your brain can, I don't know, read that, sense that, whatever. And it's very satisfying to your brain. At least that's what I've read. Whatever it is, it helps me relax and center, especially when I'm feeling a little anxious or stressed or whatever. Pressure. Life, right? It's just life. That is part of it. Adulting is hard, as my daughter would say. Ooh, very red. And I love it. Now I'll soften it a little bit. These other colors are drying, and I'm loving how they're drying down. They're really pretty. Excuse me. It's definitely has a lot of autumn vibes in it, doesn't it? A lot of gold and red and orange. But I think these colors work any time of the year. Honestly, they're just good warm colors. And I like them, but I also like the cool colors too, so just whatever you feel like, whatever you're in the mood for. Whatever floats your boat. And here I am choking down on this brush again, but I switch back and forth. I try to be conscious of it, and then I forget. And it had some schmutz in it. Yay. Yay for schmutz. Like a piece of dust or something. That's the Potter's pink there. It's kind of that brown pink and not much left of it on my palette. But that's okay. I only put out a small dollop on my palette anyway. Yep, very Harvest Gold Kitchen 1977 wallpaper. I don't know why I said 77, but you know. I'm sitting here and the sun's gone down now and I've got the windows open and there's a really nice breeze coming in. It's almost a little too cold, but I don't mind. I'm part polar bear, so it suits me fine. I know weather talk in the middle of a watercolor pattern is not relevant really, but I'm just sitting here enjoying this moment. The weather is beautiful, the crickets are chirping, and the cool breeze is coming in my studio window, and life is good. Gratitude is important. I try to have gratitude every day. I'm not always successful. It's a practice. Alright, let's see. Kind of feel like we're getting a big homogeneous color pattern here, but I'm going to keep going with it. Because I'm sure once I step back from it later, I'm going to go, oh yeah, that looks good. But right now it feels like it's a lot of the same. I feel like I'm painting the same 3 colors over and over. And I know I'm not, but it's just, I keep going to my palette going, now where? I've already done you, and you, and you like 42 times. I'm back to you again? Okay. What I ought to do is develop a pattern going around in a circle, but I'm trying to make my daisies, I guess is what I'm going to call these. Trying to make them very random. I don't know if I do random very well. I'm trying. Here I am cranked down on that, choking that watercolor brush again. Wow, look at that piece of pigment right there on the side of the brush. See it? Right there, a big old piece of yellow. Yeah, it'd be yellow right there. Let's see if we can't get that mushed back in. There we go. Something else I try to do, if I've got a real strong color here, I try to make this one kind of little, I don't give it a lot of thought, but if I'm, you know, looking and I think, huh, what am I going to do? And I see a really saturated color, I might go more watered down. It might even be the same dang color, but I'm paying less attention to that, but I am trying to vary my saturation. And I know that's not right. What I did just there is really not technically a good watercolor technique. I don't care. I'm just playing. Have I said that like 62 times today already? Yes. Might I say it 62 more times? Also, yes. Am I rambling? Again, yes. Is that better than silence? I don't know. Tell me. Would you rather me be quiet? Or is random ramblings more preferred? I know for one thing, a lot of you don't like music and have commented so. Thank you for not having music behind your videos. And I don't put music for one reason and one reason only. I hate it when I watch other videos when people have music behind their talking or behind their anything. I don't appreciate it. I don't enjoy it. I turn it down or off. Not off, but you know what I mean. Volume off. But I wonder if sitting in silence makes the user wonder, well, was there supposed to be audio here? The watcher, I mean. Is there supposed to be audio here and I'm not hearing it? Or is she being quiet because she's just got nothing to say? Actually, my third video today. Some days I just get in the zone. And some days I go days without making videos. But I said it's my third video to say I might be talked out. I might have reached my word limit. Bad part about spring is, man, my throat is getting irritated at every little new thing that's blooming. There's oak pollen all over our cars and wake up with that tickle. That scratch in the back of your throat. I realize that's a phenomenon not known everywhere. But in the South, we call that spraying. Yeah, it definitely started off more precious, and now I've gotten a little less so as I've gone down the page, but I still like it. I look into I have a little screen that I can see what I've got on the camera, and it looks good. You know, when you're this close to it, you can't always tell. You don't have a good perception. It's true about life too, isn't it? You're close to things, you can't always see them very well. That was a very dry brush. Ooh, got a bunch of pigment on that one. Got more than I bargained for. Excuse me. I really like the yellow and the oranges together, or the reds together. They make a neat orange, I meant to say. Really neat orange. More like a blood orange sometimes. But what's pretty is how they granulate together at times. I really like that a lot. Where you can see both of the colors. Those are my favorites. Yuck, got too much pigment. Too much water. Finding that balance. It's like a teeter-totter. I used to get on teeter-totters as a kid. One time I got thrown off of one. Somebody went down real hard and sent me flying. First bone I ever broke my collarbone. Landed on my shoulder. I think I was like 9. 3rd grade, something like that. After that, I kind of stayed away from teeter-totters. I didn't find them so much fun anymore. Somebody had control over my destiny, as it were. Or at least my safety. You gotta really trust the other person at the other end of that teeter-totter. of it. Too much water. It's okay, I like how they dry down. I don't mind it so much. They dry down real pretty. And very unpredictable. You know, for somebody who talks about control and OCD and things, it's weird how I like watercolor, because you would think I wouldn't. Because watercolor is one of those mediums where it's fairly unpredictable. But there's something exciting in a way about the unpredictableness of watercolor, and beautiful and unexpected. It makes it worth the risk. Is that the right word? It just appeals to me. Why fight it? Why argue with it? People say, oh, watercolor is so difficult. No, it's not. It's difficult only if you make it be something other than what it is. Only if you try to have an expectation. That's the right word. Otherwise, you just let it do what it does. And then find the beauty in the outcome. At least that's how I see it. Finding the beauty in the outcome. It's about a lot of things. Not just watercolor. Wow, I'm very philosophical today. Please disregard. Your mileage may vary. Well, I wasn't sure if I was going to like this pattern when I started it. I was fairly sure I was going to regret how tight this and small the detail was going to be. And I was pretty sure I was going to have to bear through it to finish it. But turns out, like all things, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I often build it up to be worse in my head than it really is in the end. And a little perseverance, you come out with a really neat end result. I'm liking it anyway. And I do enjoy these end results because I really end up with a really neat thing that I can use in a multitude of ways. Not the least of which is just have a really fun journal to flip through and think, oh, I could use that. Because this stencil, you know, you can put ink through it, you can put acrylic paint through it, you can put watercolor through it. This is just one of the ways to use the stencil, and this stencil is very beautiful. It's very perfect. I mean, symmetrical, and there's no jaggedy lines except for the ones I've painted. And you come up with a very nice result, I think, at the end. But there's stencils out there that are made by the Crafters Workshop and Stencil Girl and Joggles and others that have irregular patterns and jaggedy bits on them. And Tim Holtz is the king of grunge stencils, and his stencils, if you want something that's not this postcard perfect 1950s kitchen or whatever, I mean, there's plenty of those too, and I like those too. In fact, I use those in some of my other work that's not collage, but I think having some of the, we'll call this pristine, is it's a good complement to the grunge, because then you've got a little bit of everything to depending on what your mood is, what your end result is. Going for a very, cute, whimsical Easter. How sweet would this be in pastels? Pinks and purples and mint green, and how Eastery would that be? And then, this is a very fall vibe, but you could also easily make these all green and make it very, St. Patrick's Day. So these stencils really, it's just a stepping stone to your imagination. Of course, you knew that already. You didn't need me to tell you that. But it's just good to be reminded. I'm reminding myself as much as I'm reminding anybody else. Ooh, I'm getting tired. It's starting to get a little sloppy. Can't have that, but we only have like 4 petals to go, so don't stop me now. Okay. Well, I really hope that you've enjoyed watching. Maybe you've picked up some paints and a stencil of your own and painted alongside of me, because making art and using your hands is very good for your dopamine levels and happiness. Serotonin levels, I think, is what also is affected. But bottom line is, when we use our hands to make art, we help ourselves, and hopefully we end up with something we like at the end. So there are my orange and red daisies. I'll back out just a little. And once again, thanks for stopping by and sitting around, and maybe you painted along with me, but if not, maybe you'll do so next time. We'll see you soon. Bye.